and you can quote this on me. There is no way the Orioles or Red Sox make the playoffs this season. Uh, yeah, yeah. There's no way. There's no way.
I set the bar really low at the NBA predictions.
I don't think all Mavs fans look into the stats like I do.
It's not the great value Target brand toilet paper or whatever. It's the Charmin Ultra Strong.
I don't know if Nick Nurse is the coach for the Raptors. I don't know if he's the reason why they won the 2019 championship. I feel like that was more of a team effort.
The Mavs cannot say we do not miss Seth Curry shooting threes.
This questions the firing of Dwayne Casey, who I think is a very underrated coach.
To me, the Capitals really pushed all their chips for this season.
Hello, I'm Mike Grimes, and you've been listening to Outsiders Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our NFL Opinions of the Week. I'm Kevin. I'm joined by the man that I know, of course, has thoughts on this, but what's next for the Jaguars, Austin?
That's the question. They have had injury problems with not only their QB, but their running back and the rest of their defense. I mean, they're in a bad spot. They've decided to keep the majority of guys around Pederson. Like they kept Balky, the GM, Trent Balky, but they are going to move in a different way head coach-wise, and he's going to definitely bring in some guys, whoever they decide to go. But I'm kind of shocked that the Doug Pederson train ended this way, especially heading into the season. I thought they would be better than this. But they ended the year so poorly last season, and then they ended up obviously just continuing that downward trend to this year, and it's just been not good. It's been pretty bad, and it's been pretty bad in total for the rest of Jacksonville since they ended up losing the AFC Championship game to Tom Brady and the Patriots.
Yeah, I'm surprised too with Doug Pederson. As the season went on, you and I were expecting him to be fired, but you talk about Balky, and I was not aware of just his. I kind of forgot how long he had been with Jacksonville, but do you know? And this goes back to his days because he was a general manager in San Francisco. Do you know all the coaches he's hired?
In Jacksonville or in general?
In general, but of course, Jacksonville, I think there are only two, which is Urban Meyer and Doug Pederson, because I think before then, the coach before was Gus Bradley, I want to say, and that was when Tom Coughlin was sort of running things for the Jaguars, which I think was the second time he did so. So Urban Meyer, of course, did not work out. But once you look at his entire coaching hiring, it's pretty shocking. So I said San Francisco. So, of course, Jim Harbaugh. Then do you want to guess the other two?
Tommy Lasula or whatever his name is?
Yeah, Tom Sula. Yeah.
Yeah.
One more.
What was the other guy? I don't know. Just tell me.
Chip Kelly.
Oh, that's right. Chip Kelly. Yeah, that was bad. Yeah, that was not good.
Out of all those coaches, one has a winning record, which of course I know you would get Jim Harbaugh with the team under Balky.
Well, Doug Pederson doesn't even have a positive record.
Oh yeah, I remember we talked about that. With Jacksonville 22 and 29, but Chip Kelly and Urban Meyer both had 2 wins. And then Tom Sula had 5 wins. And then, of course, Harbaugh had 45, 19, and 1. They were pretty successful under Harbaugh. But to me, that's kind of the thing. What's next for the Jaguars is they do have a pretty good roster. I would say no matter how you feel about Lawrence, you're locked into him because of the contract. But I would say he's a capable quarterback. I don't know if he hasn't lived up to his hype. But you also have Trayvon Walker, Eric Armstead. They have Tyson Campbell. They have Brian Thomas Jr. And they do need help with the offensive line. Evan Ingram was good for them. They have weapons. I think they have Tank Bigsby and Travis Etienne as running backs. It's not terrible. However, I do think it's a coaching issue. And it might be a leadership issue, kind of going over Balky's history as a coach.
How quick can this turn around?
Well, I think definition of turnaround, because we saw under Doug Pederson, the Jaguars had a good first year. They made the playoffs and won the playoffs. Um, Won a playoff game, not the playoffs in general, but and then they haven't done well. So I would say turnaround, like they could be a winning team next year. But I think to be a consistent winning team, it's going to take a little bit.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The team is definitely uh, he definitely struggled, and I'm not necessarily shocked at that because they just Jacksonville throughout my time of watching the NFL has just been, besides for one season with Blake Bortles at the helm and Jalen Ramsey and Calais Campbell and Co and Leonard Fournette, they've just been poor. And I wonder whether or not the guy they're hiring is going to try to tear everything down and trade guys to create his own sort of hub, or if they're just going to stick with everyone they have, stick with ETN, stick with Brian Thomas Jr., stick with Trevor Lawrence, and everything else they built. I don't know necessarily. If we talk about, the question I asked you, how quick can this turn around completely? I still think we're a couple years away because I just don't know what else. They already drafted who was supposed to be their hero, their next guy as a QB, and it's not really working out. Obviously, Mac Jones probably would not be the answer. And so it's going to be Trevor Lawrence. And if he's not the answer, then you're going to have to wait another 5 years, or maybe it's not 5. But I don't know necessarily if the QBs next year are going to be all that great. Maybe Arches. We'll see. It's going to depend on who they hire and obviously what they try to do to build this team. Any team can make the playoffs in a 1 year span. I mean, there's been many times where I'm like, that team has no chance of making the playoffs, and they obviously do. So it's more about consistency, I think, with Jacksonville. They made the playoffs a couple times, but they need a solid set of cornerstone pieces to their team and to their coaching staff and to obviously the entire team as a whole.
Yeah, and talking about consistency, they don't need to win the division every year, because to me, a consistent team right now, kind of looking at it, was the Kevin O'Connell hiring with the Vikings, which I know you're a big Kirk Cousins fan, and he was a good quarterback, but they were kind of locked into Kirk Cousins when they hired him, when they hired Kevin O'Connell, and then he built the team. And then once that contract ran out, they drafted, but they're still getting good quarterback play. And want to say Kevin O'Connell's been in the playoffs each year.
No.
Don't no,
Not last year.
Oh, not last year. Yeah, you're
because
right about that.
they didn't have a QB.
Yeah. They went through a bunch of. Did they have a winning record
They
still?
went
or
7-10.
7-10. Okay. But I would say something like that. 3 out of 4 years consistently. No.
Isn't it just 2-3?
I thought so. The first time, how long has he been the coach? Has it only been 3 years?
This has only been his third year.
It might be. Yeah, you might be correct. Because you have. Okay, so 2 out of 3. But I would say I would be.
Yeah, it's 2-3
next year.
It's 2-3.
Yeah, 2. Okay, thanks for that. But I think that's something you kind of look for. What can they do now to help with the roster? And then as you see, Kevin O'Connell has kind of taken over the roster. And I think he did like Kirk Cousins, but it was just a money thing. So to me, they won their division once, and then they're in the playoffs again as a wild card. We're, of course, in competition for the division lead.
They won 13 games, and this year they won 14. So it's been a very successful tenure for Kevin O'Connell. I think he's easily my coach of the year.
Yes. Yeah, we'll have to do a award video. But that's my thinking, because Jacksonville, you're with Houston, and they look to be a pretty good team. You're just not going to win the division all the time. I think that's an unprecedented standard from I know a lot of back-to-back divisions, but I think with good divisions too, it's going to be tough. The Chiefs and Patriots, where they're just constantly winning, when the Patriots had Tom Brady, kind of set an unprecedented view of it. So to me, that would be consistency, kind of what we saw with the Vikings, where 2 out of 3, and just there's not a huge drop off because they still got 7 wins, and it was just they were going through quarterbacks left and right. They just didn't have a good backup. So that's what I would view consistently, and I think that's going to be tough because I think it's a culture issue with the Jacksonville team. I do think they have good players. It's just putting it together, and the GM to me does not have a good view of a head coach for his team.
Yeah, I am pretty interested who they sign. There's a lot of guys that are available at the same. There's not that many that are available. We'll have to see. Do you think they hire someone that's the first time head coach, or do they hire someone with a lot of tenure?
I'm thinking they're gonna go a guy with a lot of tenure. I feel like offensive mind. Yeah, I'm gonna go a lot of tenure. I don't see them going the rookie route again. Because if you look at Balky's, Urban Meyer was the only one without. Well, I guess Jim Tomsula. Because Chip Kelly had been coach, Doug Pederson, previous head coach. So I think it's going to be previous tenure. Maybe a guy we haven't heard of in a little bit. So we'll have to see. I don't see them going risky because they want a guy that's proven and kind of has that idea of building a culture. But we'll have to see what happens.
Okay. Yeah, I think they'll hire someone with tenure because I think they're going to try to fix the problem a lot sooner. If they were going to go the rookie QB route, which I don't think they will, I could see them hiring a new guy. But I think because the system has already been set that it's going to be Trevor Lawrence as a starter, they go with a more tenured individual to start.
Yeah, we'll have to see how that goes, and we'll keep you updated, of course, on that. Let us know your thoughts in the comments. Thank you for listening to Outsiders Opinions.